France has got to be one of the most fascinating countries in the world. It's the #1 tourist destination. I think I'd rather live here than any place else in the world. But not for the reasons I've just mentioned. It's because God has put a burden on my heart for this country, an under-evangelized country. 1 out of every 3 French people is an atheist. Another third are agnostics. And the last third are divided between Catholics, Muslims, Buddhists. There's less than 1% of evangelical Christians in France.
But there is good news too. We see signs of God drawing people to Himself, and we want to be part of that too.
Phillippe and Marie-Christine share this burden. They have just finished a church plant and want to start again elsewhere.
We both come from a Catholic background, as many French people.
We became disciples of Christ at the age of 23 through the testimony of missionaries who were coming from Great Britain.
God has allowed us to have a family of 4 children and to have the vision of church planting, which is not incompatible with family life.
Brad and Catherine have already planted 2 churches. They too have answered the call to start over again. The 2 couples have decided to join efforts.
I came from a Catholic background also, but I met the Lord as a law student through a student ministry.
I grew up in a Christian home on the Canadian prairies. God got a hold of my life as a teenager and slowly led me to missions. But before we grow too old, we're asking God to help us plant a new church and to train more workers to do the same things.
Inspired by research done by the National Council of Evangelicals in France, Brad and Phillippe have concluded their church planting project is pertinent.
Missiologists have determined that you need 1 gospel-preaching church for every 10,000 inhabitants of a country. In Great Britain or in Canada, you have 1 evangelical church for 3,500 citizens. When you get to France, we have 1 evangelical church for 35,000 inhabitants, 10 times less. We want to be a part of that by planting a network of new churches.
The other answer is the training of new church planters. As Paul took time to train someone like Timothy, new church planters, pioneer couples need to be trained by more experienced church planters. This is why we plan to start a regional center for new church planters, which will focus on practical, on-the-job training. This church planting training center is called to multiply and become a hub in order to create other church planting centers and church planting situations.
After doing some research, the 4 friends have decided to target and move into Aix-en-Provence.
With a population of 140,000 people and only a few churches, Aix is a potential target city if we want to reach the goal of 1 church for 10,000 people in France. Among the existing churches in Aix, none of them is from our spiritual sensitivity. Aix is also an important university center with more than 35,000 students there.
And then from Aix, you can keep a link close to Marseille, the big city of more than 1 million people, plus many other towns who have less than 1 church per 10,000 people in less than half an hour driving. Town like Toulon, Cavaillon, Manosque. Close to Manosque, there is a new huge international project called ITER, having to do with nuclear energy, who is going to drain more than 4,000 highly qualified people. And I think Aix is a strategic place.
Thankfully, we're not going into this project alone. The French assemblies are working well together. They've created a church planting commission. The Perrilliat here are happy members of GLO, a Scottish mission.
GLO is very interested in church planting in Europe and specifically in France, and they've adopted this project. Catherine and I have been serving in France for 30 years now with the help of Canadian assemblies and Christians who help us through MSC Canada. We'd like to share 3 prayer requests with you.
Prayer. Mission has always started with prayer. We need people like Priscilla and Aquila, people like Timothy, in order to build this church planting team. We do need brothers and sisters really sent by the Lord.
Pray with us too for a miracle for finances. We believe we need a building to be visible to the population and reach out to the students. Right now our building fund is at 0.
We are not specialists. We just try to serve Christ in the way we think He wants us to serve. Can you pray with us that we can remain open and be humbly open to His direction and will in the future?